protecting your mind. There ain't no reason for the fantasize. No moments here and outside.
What's up, man? How's it going?
Pretty good, brother. What's up?
Oh, not too much, man. Just got back home from work not too long ago. Just long, cold day here in Colorado, man.
Yeah, it's hot and overcast here down in the great state of Alabama.
Nice, man. How's everything been since the fight?
Pretty good, man. I took last week off just to rest and not get burnt out. I just started back training really yesterday. Training earlier and training yesterday and tonight, and now I'm just sitting working a little overtime, trying to make a little money on the side.
Nice, man. Well, what do I need to keep us at a certain time range, or what are we looking at for you? I just want to be respectful for your time.
Nah, I'm just sitting here, man. I got to be here all night, so I'm good. Good to go.
Okay.
As long as you want.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. It'll be just kind of like the same like last time, man. We'll just kick it off with a little intro, and if you just want to, hit off like your social media handles or any of like, your sponsors, anything along those lines. And then we'll just flow from there.
Okay, yeah, cool. I'll start out with my social media at Mikey Fights on Instagram, and obviously anybody can follow me at Iron Mike Barnett on Facebook. I pretty much add everybody as long as your profile looks real, man.
Yeah.
It's a couple people out there. And don't try to get me to buy fight gear if you're not going to send a sample. I had like 10 people try to get me to buy fight gear from them, but they didn't want to send me a sample. I'm not buying no small gear from anybody that I can't sample first. So yeah, shout out to everybody that really just wants to add and be friends, and not small random fight companies.
Yep, absolutely, man. So, I totally get it. I see all those all the time. We'll kick right into things right here. This is the Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz. We're here right now with my man, Iron Mike Barnett. Very special guest, second time on the show. It's great to have you back, man. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us with your presence here.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me. Always good to talk to you, Jordan. Before we get started, I'm going to get this out of the way now, all right? Go Chiefs, all right? My boy Mahomes, he put on a show up there in Denver, man. He led the team back to victory. You guys are big Denver fans, and I happen to like Denver a little bit too when they're not playing the Chiefs. But all right, so now I got that out of the way. Let's go ahead.
You gotta just go and just drive the dagger right at me right away to start everything off, man. That's
let's go and get it out of the way, man. Now it's out of the way. We won't have to talk about it again.
Fair enough. Appreciate it. Yeah, my Broncos aren't doing too well, man. I have tickets to the game against the Rams this weekend, and I am not too confident based off of last week's showing against the Jets about how we're going to be doing against the arguably the best team in the NFL. So, not too encouraged by the way that we're looking right now.
Yeah, well, hopefully they'll turn it around, man. With Von Miller on the defense, though, man, you guys, the way those guys can rush the passer in today's NFL, you always got a shot. I mean, they're just that good on that side of the ball, man. You guys, I mean, you're gonna have to get. I think you have to get a little bit more out of the quarterback, some more consistency. But if you can, with the way the defense plays, man, y'all are never completely out of a game.
Yeah, I hope that you're right. I hope that you're right, my friend. So, Mike, you're coming fresh off of a big win on Island Fights 50. You got the decision there. Kind of talk to us just a little bit about what your experience was like in Pensacola there for that fight.
Okay, yeah. Well, I've been fighting for Island Fights for a while. I actually had my first amateur fight there 7, 8, 9 years ago, however long ago that was. So Island Fights is a great promotion. It's really growing. It's grown a lot over the last few years, really. So Dean Toole, he's the promoter, owner, CEO of Island Fights. He's doing a great job. They treat us well. Went over there, man. It was a great fight, man. It was a good fight. If you haven't got to see it, or if you have seen it, it was a great fight. If you haven't, it's on Facebook. If you go to the Island Fight Facebook page, the stream's up. Our fight starts about an hour and 53 minutes in. I won a split decision over a real tough guy, Anderson Superman Hutchinson. He's from South Florida. I think maybe Pete White boxing or something. I know his coach's first name is Pete. Yeah, it was a good fight. First round is back and forth action. He's switched stances a lot, so he starts out in left hand stance. I'm countering, coming over the top of his left hand. You know, lefties versus orthodox, they like to do that paw with their left hand, try to take your jab out of it. So I was really trying to focus on continuing to use my jab and my lead hook. Heads back and forth in the first round. I get a couple of close rounds, but I swept him twice off kick catches and did a lot of body work, man. So I felt like I won that first round. Second round, same kind of thing. I got a takedown, held him down for about 2.5 minutes of the round, and got a little ground to pound off, but he grabbed a couple submissions, but we worked through him, and eventually he was able to escape. And so I felt I won those first 2 rounds. In the third round, my body started to shut down on me. I took the fight on 4 weeks' notice, and it was the most weight I've had to cut because my wife's pregnant, so I had been eating her cravings for about 4 or 5 weeks.
Congratulations, by the way.
A little heavy. When I took the fight, somebody started to shut down a little bit in the third round. He was able to get me down late, probably maybe with a minute or so left, minute and a half, and he had my back for a minute. He was landing some good shots, man. But I was able to tie his hands up and secure his hands and really tough it out, and was able to finish the fight. I won a split decision. A few people, really anybody that's seen the fight that isn't in his camp, I haven't heard any complaints about me winning the decision. Most people that I've encountered, I've talked to, have said that I won or believe that I won. Not even just like my friends and family and people that are in my camp per se, but pretty much everybody that I've come in contact with that wasn't actively rooting for him said I won. I've watched the fight 3 or 4 times. I thought I won. So I'm happy with it. Like I said, Anderson's a super tough guy, great fighter. I think that for Island Fights, we fight in a boxing ring because they also do boxing shows. There's a brand new canvas in there. It's a little bit slick on bare feet, especially if you fight up on your toes like I tend to. Some guys fight a little more flat-footed so they can drive on shots. But I was in there, I was trying to punch, man, and I'm sliding around and all kind of stuff. So that kind of took away from my game a little bit. I thought I probably could have done a little better. There's a couple things that I could have done that I just wasn't able to do just with the way my feet were sliding on the canvas. And that was actually a theme throughout the night for a lot of people. So, but like I said, Anderson I was not taking away from Anderson's performance. He did a great job. It went well. It went well for me, and I'm glad I got the decision, man. I think I earned it.
That's awesome, man. I watched it. I had it 2-1. I had you winning the first 2 rounds for sure.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, man. Like I said, if you watch that, especially that first round, people keep saying the first round super close and could have went either way, and maybe it was. But if you watch, or if other people that listen to this and then watch it, if you watch the fight, you got to pay attention to the body work because I hit a lot of body shots in that fight, man. A lot of body shots, which credit to him. A lot of people can't take my body shots the way he took them. He took them and he kept coming, but I did a lot of right hands and hooks to the body in that fight. So it was fun. And like I said, it's fun, close fight too. Good prospects, man. Anderson's tough. I mean, he could easily be fighting a level up, as far as LFA or some of these UFC undercards. I want to say somebody told me he fought in World Series of Fighting or Bellator or something. I don't know if that be true or not. So yeah, it's a good fight between good prospects, man. It's a fun fight, man. It's one of those fights that that when you do this, you look for. You know what I mean? The reason you do this is to get a good fight like that. Well, and so it was fun, man. I had a lot of fun. I just really enjoyed the fight.
Well, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room with the fight, though, too. Also, how much of an advantage do you think it played to his favor coming in 5 pounds over? He missed weight by 5 pounds. He was basically a weight class ahead from what he should have been. Because you mentioned, your body shutting down in the third, that has to be in part from, you mentioned the weight cut, all of that. He didn't have to deplete himself for those last 5 pounds, so his body wasn't having to go through that same sort of, stressed condition.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, and not just talking about Anderson, but like in general, when guys miss weight, it's obviously an advantage. And people that don't fight, or people that are just starting out, or just some people in gym like, oh, well, you still have the option to take the fight or not take the fight if your opponent misses weight. Well, a lot of times, if you're really trying to make a career out of this, you don't have that option, right? Like, let's say anybody decides not to take a fight, right? If you're a full-time fighter, you're not getting paid, right? Like, if you're, I'm somebody that I train and work full-time, right? But if I didn't work full-time outside of training, you can't be turning down fights, especially not at this level, because, you're not making enough per fight to survive. So it's not like you can say, oh, he missed weight, and so I'm not going to take the fight. You know what I mean? You can't do that, right? Especially if you're trying to get to the next level, right? All us regional prospects, we're trying to get to the next level. We're trying to get to the LFA, to the UFC undercard, to the Bellator undercard, to the Contender Series, all that kind of stuff. You only can get there by fighting and having film. And you can't be out here turning down fights. It's obviously a big advantage when you don't have to deplete yourself. He said, and he told his guys, that he depleted himself as much as he thought he could. He said he hadn't been able to get any more weight off in 2 days. And he said he made a miscalculation. That's not for me to, I don't feel any kind of way about that. That's, our jobs are to make weight. I did what I had to, you know what I mean? Just in general, if you don't have to cut all the way down and your opponent does, yes, that's an advantage for you. Any way you want to slice it, it just is. Not taking that last little bit of water out of your body or whatever, not cutting that last little bit of weight allows you to perform better. There's a percentage that you lose per pound, percentage of performance that you lose per pound that you cut, or per body percentage that you cut is what it is. Justin Osborne, shout out to the machine. He told me about it. And 5 pounds is a good amount,
Correct.
So that's an extra, I think it's like 10% per 2% of your body weight or something like that. So whatever that percentage is, I lost a ton more than he had to, because I went all the way down. I don't even know what he walks around at. I know he was, he's bigger, he's a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier than me on fight night. So I don't know how far he came down. I know when I came down to 45 for about 20 pounds. I came down for the fight. So it's an advantage in a fight if you don't have to cut a lot of weight, right? It definitely is. So like I said, I'm not here to judge Anderson, talk about him or down, talk down on him or anything like that. I'll just say that making weight is important. And I also think that in general, we need to change the way we punish people that miss weight. I think people will take 20, 30, 40% if you miss weight, right? But for a lot of people, that's not really incentive. You know what I mean? Like, I talked about this last week in an interview I did with Christopher Rothstein. Okay? So Darren Till missed weight against Stephen Thompson, right? 4 pounds. He gives up whatever it is, 40% of his purse, whatever he gave up. I have no idea. And then he can't weigh in over, I think it was like 180 maybe, whatever the top weight was, or 190, something like that, right? So Thompson puts a restriction on what he can weigh the day of the fight, and then he gets a little bit of his money. But Till accepts that, right? He goes, and he says, okay, that's fine. They go on the fight. Till wins the fight. His next fight is now for the title. So whatever he gave up, the 40% he gave up of, whatever he was making, let's say he was making 30 and 30. So he gave up 40% of 30,000, right? In his first fight, or in his previous fight, his next fight for the title, so he's making 400 and 400. You know what I mean? So he didn't miss out on anything by missing weight, because he made that back in spades. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I think in general as a sport, we need to address guys that miss weight differently. I think if you miss weight by more than a pound, you should go down a point. And if you miss by 2 pounds or more, you go down 2 points. That's incentive to make weight. You know what I mean? If you know, man, if I miss weight by a pound, I'm going to start down a point. I'm really going to have to be hunting to finish, which means you might get reckless, you might get wild and get yourself caught. Well, then, you're going to concentrate on making weight.
That's an interesting one.
If especially when you like some guys, like I said, that calculated risk, right? Is missing weight worth this money so that maybe my next fight is now worth more because I can still perform well, right? Like you had it with what's her name? Kinsey Dern. Miss weight in her fight, gives a little money, but she wins, and then she moves up in the rankings. Same thing Darren Till did, right? So if you can still move up in the rankings and then as far as the fight goes, not really be punished, like, scoring or like bad positioning or something like that, then what's your incentive to not miss weight? You know what I mean? What's your incentive to make weight? You don't have any. So, I really think that if we said, okay, if you miss weight by a pound, you're going to start down 1 point. So the most you can do is draw the first round, right? And then, unless you just are completely dominant, then you can win 9-8. But you can only get 9 points in that first round. And then, okay, if you miss weight by more than a pound, then you lose a point first round, and then maybe you lose a point second round, or maybe you lose 2 points off the first round, right? People are going to be like, you know what? I'm going to fucking make weight.
Yep.
Because I don't want to start down 2 points, right? I don't want to start down 2. Some guys are going to go up a weight class because that's going to happen to them. They're going to lose the fight that they probably should have won. If they're going to get in a draw, they probably should, in the fight they should have won. And now you're talking about affecting, right? Now you're talking about affecting your money because I say this all the time, man. It's not about the fights you have. It's always about the next one, right? Everything you do is not about this fight. It's about the next one until you're fighting for the world title or defending the world title. So until you're defending or fighting for the world title, every fight is about the next one. And if you're not getting wins, if you're not performing the way you need to, then you're going to change something because you're not getting what you want out of it.
I'll be honest with you, Mike. You just blew my mind with that. Like I never thought of a penalty for missing weight to be actual like points within a contest. Like that's a completely different thought process. I love it. I love that idea.
Pass that on to your guys. See what they think, man. I'm trying to make it a thing.
Oh, I'll definitely be happy to share that one along because that's something that I've never heard that before, and I think I think that's a legit idea personally.
Yeah, I really do. I've really been thinking about it, man. I just know that like you missed weight because you're probably too big for weight class. You're missing weight, but secondly, like it's going to affect your performance. Or, you're going to not be able to fight because weight cutting is dangerous. So if you get too low, you do it too much, whatever, you're gonna feel it. Everybody that's fought in there, you feel that water drawn out of your stomach. When you're about done. So man, if I keep going, I'm not going to fight. Or I'm not gonna recover. I'm not gonna recover from my weight cut. I'm not gonna rehydrate enough. I can take this 30% penalty, 40% penalty, 50% penalty, and still fight from where I'm at and do well. Especially like if I got good sponsors, man. If you're a guy with good sponsors, you know what I'm saying? Especially at this level, let's say you're making $2,000 and $2,000. You give up, 30% of $2,000. What is that, like $600? Okay, but my sponsor's gonna pay me. I got a sponsor that pays me $800 just for fighting. I can give up that $600 because my sponsor made it back up, and then I win, and then I may get a win bonus from that same sponsor from one of my other sponsors. So I didn't really lose any money. I don't know. It's something I think if we did differently, I think you see a lot less guys missing weight. Like I think in the UFC beginning of the year it was like 10 fighters missed weight, and like 8 or 9 of them ended up winning their fight. Like that.
I'm pretty sure that almost everybody that's cut, it's ridiculous. It's very, very
crazy like that. Like the people
evident.
that were missing weight had won, not until like late in the year. Not until Rob Whitaker, I think, that a guy that made weight beat a guy that missed weight. Something like that. It was crazy like that for a while, man.
You're accurate, man. Absolutely.
I think if we did it that way, it addressed the problem seriously.
No, I think that's a great suggestion, man. I'm definitely going to do everything I can now to try to circulate that because I think that's a killer idea. Yeah, that's a good one to run.
See what those guys, see what other people think about that, man. When you talk to people, I'd be excited to see some feedback from that. Yeah,
definitely. Well, so Mike, I got to ask you though, as far as with you directly, what is there another fight that's on the schedule? Is there something else that you're eyeing? Anything in the works right now?
things on my end, man. I got something. Can't really talk about yet. I may be fighting in December. Put it like that. I can't give you any details. I may fight in December. I'm having a baby in December, so I got to make sure that goes well. But there's a big opportunity on the horizon. So once me and my wife talk to the doctor about the birth of our son, then I may or may not take this big opportunity. But it's a really, really big opportunity. So when I can talk about it, I'll fill you in on it.
Looking forward to hearing some news, man. I know that either way you're going to be successful with what you're doing, man. You've got the right approach for it all. So can't speak enough to it, and especially just to address you right now. You're definitely making an impact within your community. So shout out to you with your public service as well as a cop. For those of you who out there who don't know, Mike is a police officer as well. So how does that all work for you? How does the flow of everything with work as a cop and having the career as a fighter, how does that all mesh?
Well, it works pretty well. I actually started training just to learn some hand-to-hand combat type stuff, some self-defense stuff, just knowing that I was going to go into law enforcement as a profession. That's really the reason I started doing this. And then I kind of fell in love with the sport and then tried it. So, it works out pretty well. One, just helps you stay in shape. A lot of guys, a lot of people have seen cops out of shape, the whole, donuts and things like that. Just because I'm always training and, often getting ready for competition to fight, I can't eat bad, so I've got to watch my diet. So it helps me stay in shape. Being in law enforcement, it's an active career. I'm a guy, I couldn't sit at a desk. I go crazy. So it allows me to stay active and meet with people, talk to people. Sometimes I got to use my training at work. It's part of it, man. A lot of people. I've been doing it about 8 years now. So in the area that I work, most people that encounter me in that way, they kind of know what I do already. So I don't have to do too much anymore as I used to. But I did before. Used to have to do a lot of fighting at work. Like I said, now not so much. Recently, so as far as, going back and forth, I work 12 hours a day when I work. So my 12-hour shift, I go from, I can train before work. Like a lot of times I have to get up early in the morning. Like if I'm on day shift, I switch every month. So on days, when I'm on day shift, I'll get up at 4:30, and I might run 2-3 miles, and I'll go shower, and then I'll go to work. Then I get off at about 6 p.m., and then I'll go and I'll train to about 8 or 9 and get up and do it the same day. When I'm on night, I work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So I work out I probably sleep to about 12 and then get my running in or whatever, and then I go work out and then head in. Then I'll shower and head to work. It works out pretty good most of the time. You got to be dedicated to get it all in, man. It can be tough to manage it, because I also teach kids classes and some of those classes at our gym. So it can be tough to manage it if you're not, on top of it. I don't have time to mess around, I got to use all my time wisely. But also I get a lot of off days because since I work 12 hours, we work what's called a Panama shift. So I work 2 days and then I'm off 2 days. And then I'll work like towards the weekend. I'll work 3 days. I'll work a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'll be off Monday, Tuesday. Then I'll work Wednesday, Thursday, and then be off the next Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Gotcha.
So depending on the week, I might get like this week, I'm working a little overtime tonight, but technically I'm off today. So I was off yesterday. So I got good training yesterday and today, and then like tomorrow I'll get to train again before I have to go back to work tomorrow night. So I've gotten to train, roughly 10, 12 hours before I have to go back to work. And then I'll be off this weekend, so I'll have time to train this weekend too. So it flows together pretty well. Made me be more efficient with all of my time. It keeps me busy. It keeps me in shape. So it's a lot, man. Just enjoying life over here, man. Very busy. One of those people that sit around and complain about stuff, man. I've literally always got something to do.
When did you know that you wanted to be in law enforcement?
I actually did it, man. I grew up as somebody that not liking cops, man. I'll be honest. Like most young people, man, I wasn't a fan of the police. What happened happened, man? So I was in college. I started out as a political science major. The professor that was over that department, me and him, man, we got into it. We just bumped heads in like every class I took with the guy. I guess he didn't like that. I don't know if he didn't like me or he didn't like the way I would like answer questions in his classes. I don't know, but we got into it. I had to switch. I was like, man, I got to get. So I switched to criminal justice. So I became a criminal justice major, and I was gonna go to law school. That was my plan. I scored well enough to get into most law schools in the country, just about any of the top law schools in the country. I was in my senior year of college, and I said, okay, I'm gonna go do this internship. Man, I spent like 3 days with lawyers, and I was like, okay, these people are not for me. So after spending a couple of days of the internship, I didn't even go back, man. I was like, yeah, I won't be able to do this. I just don't got it in me. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do? Because I'm a guy, I grew up, I feel like, fairness and justice is important. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll try law enforcement. I got this criminal justice degree. I'll give it a try. I was getting ready to graduate. I had to have a job. So I was like, okay, I'll try this for a little bit and see how it goes. Maybe I'll find something else. And then I just kind of fell in love with it, man. I enjoy helping people. I really do. I mean, and that's the biggest thing that I do is to help people. Help people and help them solve their problems. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing. And I also get to be active. I got to learn a lot of skills that I otherwise wouldn't have. So yeah, I just kind of fell in love with it. And I really just enjoy helping people. That's the biggest thing. I get to help people every day. I get paid to help people. So, that's all. For me, it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anytime that you get paid to do what you love, I feel like that's a good situation.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. It works for me perfectly.
So, as you mentioned, there is out there just, a lot of general, I guess, call it animosity toward cops that are, that just exists out there, period, right now in America. How does that, how does that impact you directly? How do you ever feel that sort of heat, or, what's that like?
Well, sometimes you do. Sometimes there is a lot of animosity out there in the general public for the police. Some of it's earned, some of it not so much. I just try to be a good example, man. That's really what I try to do, man. Just try to be a good example. Treat everybody, everybody I meet, whether it's a child or an adult, grown, whatever. Everybody is a sir or ma'am until you give me a reason not to call you that. You know what I mean? I'm respectful to every person that I encounter, even people that I arrest. You know what I mean? I don't look down on anybody. Like I said, I try to be respectful to every person I meet, no matter what they're doing. Whether they be, some lawyer or doctor, and I'm at their house because they're fighting or whatever, or somebody who's homeless on the street. Man, everybody's a sir and everybody's a ma'am, and everybody gets treated with respect. And when you do it that way, man, you don't have a lot of problems.
Understandable.
And some people take away from that. You know what? Maybe like I've encountered other people that you know what? Before I met you, I didn't like cops. So thank you because you showed me that not all cops are what the media makes them out to be. So that's kind of how I approach it. It works for me. It's been working pretty well. So. Yeah, but that is that out there, and even in my own family has had to kind of come around on me being in law enforcement, man. Of course, I was talking to a family member a couple weeks ago, and she said she got pulled over because she was speeding, and we talked about this. We talked about how you talk to the police when you get pulled over, just like that. Maybe this was maybe 2 weeks ago. We talked about this. It was 2 weeks ago she was telling me the story, and we talked about it like 3 weeks ago. And she was like, before me and her talked, or before I became a police officer, she might have went off on the guy and screamed and yelled at him and all this kind of stuff when he approached her window. And she would have got a whole bunch of tickets. Now she thought about kind of stuff that we had recently talked about. And you know what? She was polite. She was able to stay calm. And I think she ended up getting a warning, or maybe just one ticket or something like that. I think she got a warning. Is what she said. So she was telling me that me being in law enforcement has had her come around on law enforcement officers. So that's
good,
what I try to spread, man.
That's good. I definitely I think that it's a bad rap situation, just like you said. You know, there are a few bad apples that are in the bunch, but for the most part, I kind of call it like the get right factor. Just because, I mean, I work with the public too, you know, a lot with my regular job, and so much of everything in life is approach. You know, if you're
Right.
if you're gonna be a dickhead, then you're probably gonna be met with a lot more problems out there in life in general than if you have a respectful approach. And I'm sure you more than anyone have that present in your everyday day to day life with with the situations that you encounter.
Yeah, man, definitely, man. I just feel like if you approach any situation, like one of the golden rules when you were a kid, right? Treat other people the way you want to be treated. If you apply that to your job, your relationship, your just life in general, most of the time there's like 80-90% of people you won't have a problem with. There's 5 to 10% of people that no matter how nice you are to them, they're gonna be a dickhead, right? They just are. You know what I'm saying? There's just 5 to 10% of people out there are like that. But you can have good encounters with most people just by being respectful, not even overly polite. I try to be overly polite just because some people will just complain if you're normal respectful. So I try to be extra polite to everybody until I can't. So yeah, just in general, if you can just be cool to everybody, like I said, most people be cool back, and then the people you can't be cool with, they make themselves clear pretty early. And so, then those people, you gotta handle a little tougher.
I'm sure those ones get a little bit interesting.
Yeah, it does sometimes get interesting, man. It's a fun job, man. It's something different every day. It's never the same. It's never really. Mobile's a good sized city with a good active criminal element. So we always have something to do. So it's a lot of fun, man. Like I said, it's helped me give a lot of life skills that I didn't previously have, and it helps me impact not only people my age but like younger people. I've gotten to talk to, and I like once arrested a guy. He was probably 20, and he had never worked, and he had some drugs on him or something like that. I think, I don't know, maybe he got into a fight, something like that, something kind of minor. And I'm taking him to jail, and I'm talking to him on the way to jail about doing better and getting his life straight, and really just how to be a better person, because he was somebody that like didn't really have anybody in his life to tell him that as he was growing up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we got talking, and he said he would really think about what I was saying. He appreciated it, so I took him to jail. Then about 6 months later, man, I actually came back across him. I went to Wendy's. And he's the manager at Wendy's, and he saw me in the drive-thru, and he comes to the drive-thru and starts talking to me. He's like, man, the best thing that ever happened to me was you arresting me and talking to me, man. He's telling me, what he did? I can't remember exactly what he did, but whatever he did, he stopped doing. He wasn't fighting or doing drugs or smoking weed or whatever it was anymore. He wasn't getting in trouble anymore. He got this job, and in 6 months, he went from like cashier to manager, and he was doing great, and he had bought himself his first car. He bought himself a Charger. Man, he said his life had turned around 180 degrees from the time that we met, and the time that he went to jail, the time I took him to jail, and the time that he got out, and then I saw him again. So stuff like that, man, that makes you feel good and lets you know you're doing a good job.
That's definitely rewarding, man, to see that you're making an impact to such a degree right there within your own community that way.
Yeah.
So, I got to ask you, what is your thoughts on what happened at first of all on the night as a whole, but then we can delve into the post main event, ruckus that went on at T-Mobile Arena.
Yeah. Well, first as a night on the whole, man, that is a great night of fight, man. What a night of fight. I don't know. I didn't see a bad fight, and I think I might have missed. I missed how Aspen Ladd finished her fight, but as far as the other ones that I saw, man, every fight was a good fight. Hot Sauce Holtzman, I think that's Holtzman. He put on a great performance, man. He hit that Henry, I think was the name of the guy he fought, something like that. He fought that guy, man. He hit that guy with big shots. That dude was tough, stood in there. He stayed calm and kept throwing. I think he ended up breaking both his hands and still kept throwing them. So yeah, great fight by Holtzman. The rest of the prelims were really good. Even like up through the main card, I don't think we had a real boring fight. My guy Derek Lewis with a sensational comeback, man. It was just amazing that fight. We do a little pool and we make picks that when me and my friends from the gym get together, man. I picked every fight on the main card right. I think I went even on the prelims, I went 11-0 in the fights that I picked, man. And I still end up losing the pool because one person he picked the main event right, the exact round and exact way. And and it was the only way he could beat me, man. So I went 11-0 on a fight card, and still couldn't win a pool, man. That'll never happen again.
Right.
It was a great night of fights. The main event went about how I thought it would go. Conor just really didn't have any answer for that chain wrestling, man. He defended the first shot pretty good through the first 2 rounds, I thought. But Khabib would turn the corner, get him down. He lassos those legs in what I like to call quarter mount, where he's kind of in mount, but he's got his feet crossed around down by your knees, so he's not really in a high mount or controlling your hips. But you can't shrimp. If you reach down and shrimp, he's gonna ground and pound you. So you're kind of just stuck there. Conor didn't really have a way to deal with that. And then it just kind of went, he just kind of got smothered from there. That's the way Khabib fights pretty much everybody. As far as the aftermath stuff, here's my opinion on that. It's not great for the sport. It does make especially because on a high profile fight like that, a lot of people that don't normally watch MMA are watching, and that's what they see. So that's what they're going to take away from. That's what they're going to take away from it. Not oh man, these guys are dedicated athletes that train 6 hours a day and 4, 5, and 6 different types of martial arts and have to be dedicated to their bodies and all this kind of stuff. No, these guys are hooligans and they're street fighters, and look at them jumping over and fighting in the crowd and all that kind of stuff. So on that aspect of it, I get it, and I can see. On the other side of it, this is Dana White's fault, man. It really is. At the end of the day, right, you allowed this to happen. First off, there should have been more security there anyway, right? Just off of the way this entire thing has gone, right? Like, these 2 camps have already got into it once. You know what I'm saying? It's gotten heated already just with the free fight talk and all that kind of stuff. We should have seen this coming. They should have been more prepared. That's number one. We already know Dylan Dennis is a hothead type of person. We already know that we know these things about these people, so we should have addressed it beforehand, in my opinion. But then you go on, so you have the whole thing with Khabib and Artem back in whenever that was, like April. Right, so that happened, right? And then Conor shows up. Now, I'm of the opinion that the UFC, Dana White and them, they didn't think it would happen the way it happened. They didn't think Conor would get down there and throw a gate and a dolly and all that kind of stuff. But they wanted something to happen. There's no way anybody could just get down to that basement area of whatever arena they were in Brooklyn.
Barclays Center, I'm pretty sure.
Get there, right? Yeah, the Barclays Center. So there's no way just somebody could show up and get access down there to where those buses are. There's absolutely zero chance of that, right? Like, if let's say me or you had access to the Barclays Center and we could get in there, there's no way we would get down there without somebody stopping us and saying, hey, what are you guys doing? Where are y'all going? So there's no chance in hell, in my opinion, that the UFC didn't know Conor was coming down there. Then they don't stop the incident before it happens, because, you watch the video, there's plenty of opportunities for somebody to step in or for security to be called and surround them and stop that from happening, right? They kind of let it escalate too far, and then everything happens. And then, so for the past, 6 months? So that happened in April, yeah. So the past 6 months, they've been using that as a promo. So for the past 6 months, you've been using one fighter attacking a bus full of fighters as a promo to promote this fight and build this hype and all this kind of stuff. Then you allow the same fighter to talk about Khabib, and Khabib's family and his manager in ways that are most people would say are too far. I think it was a bit too far. There's some times where he crossed the line. So you let this build up, and then of course it boils over, right? Like there's only so much of that was going to continue to be contained. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't want that to happen, you have to nip that shit in the bud in the beginning, right? You got to address Conor much more sternly than you did. You can't use the footage, of the bus attack as a promo. You know what I mean? You can't do that. Now, I say all that, but I also think, Khabib lost his cool. Here's what I'm saying. The best thing about this sport is that if you got beef with a guy, you can settle it, right? Like, okay, you know what? I don't like this guy. He's talking all this shit, whatever. We're going to get in the cage and then we're going to fight. And we're going to punch each other in the face. And then it's going to be settled. You know what I'm saying? Like, I literally get the punch. I don't like you. I don't like what you said about me. I get, my 15, 25 minutes to actually fight you, right? And punch you and hit you. So I can take out my anger because we're fighting. You know what I mean? We're literally going to fist fight. And there's not going to be any rules other than I can't hit you in the groin and I got you. But other than that, I can do whatever I want. So you go in there, you fight, you win, right? So Khabib wins. And, so then now I don't have to say anything because I just beat you up. You know what I'm saying? Like, so me and a guy have beef and he's talking all this trash and all this kind of stuff. Then I go in there and I kick his ass, right? After that, I don't have to say anything. It's settled. So I just beat you up. Particularly, like, in the UFC or in, like, a big league like that, because it's worldwide. So the entire world got to watch me kick your ass. You've been embarrassed enough. Whatever you said about me now has no bearing because I literally just whooped your ass and the whole world saw, the whole world knows it. You know what I'm saying? So in that respect, I kind of feel like Khabib won the fight. Anything that Dylan Dennis said, anything anybody would have said to him, I would have just let go because I'd have been like, if Dylan Dennis is still talking, do you want some? Because you just saw what I did to your guy. You know what I'm saying? So if you come in here, if you sign with UFC, you can get some too, right? Because I'm just handing out butt whoopings, and that's what I just did. So I don't think Khabib had to do that. I understand it. Like I said, I think it's more the UFC using the bus attack and then let stuff go as promos for this whole thing. You let it boil up, and then it boils over, and now you're upset.
You let Conor literally say that he was going to kill him. Like, you let Conor get away with literally saying he was going to kill him.
Right. Exactly.
So what do you think?
Then I haven't seen all the close stuff at the end, right? All the little videos of the post-fight stuff. Like, I watched it live, but I hadn't gone back and watched all that stuff. But somebody's saying that Conor swung on somebody first. Or Conor threw the first punch.
That's a fact. Like, Conor swung on Khabib's brother on the fence or on the cage skirt.
Yeah. So Conor swings on somebody first, and we're not talking about suspending him and then he's done and being stripped or whatever. He doesn't have the belt, obviously, but we're not talking about all that same kind of stuff for him. We didn't talk about any of that kind of stuff when he, attacked a bus full of fighters who didn't have anything to do with, him and Khabib and Artem and all that, cutting guys up. We didn't have anything to do with. We didn't talk about any of that kind of stuff after that. So I don't see why we're talking about it. Other than the criminal stuff, if there's criminal charges involved, if the UFC didn't punish Conor any kind of way for what he did in April, then I don't see how or why they can justify punishing Khabib. I don't. Now, Nevada State Athletic Commission is a different entity, obviously. So they're going to do what they're going to do. But those commissions are literally only about money. I mean, the only reason they exist is about money and get paid. Paying those people, somebody else can get their cut. You know what I'm saying? So they'll get their little fine or whatever they do. But as far as suspending him, I don't see a reason that he should be suspended. I don't think it's the worst thing we've seen. We had that whole that strike force brawl, Mayhem Miller and the Diaz guys. I mean, that was worse than that, I thought.
After the Jake Shields fight, yeah, and that was on NBC. That was when Strikeforce was that was their big, that was like the one time that they ended up doing it. But
yeah, network television, right? You had the whole Paul Daly sucker punching, what's the name after his loss? Who was that?
Josh Koscheck. Was that Koscheck? I'm pretty sure it's Koscheck.
I think it was Koscheck, yeah. Sucker punching Koscheck after the fight. I mean, you've had worse incidents, and we didn't see the same kind of visceral reaction. I think people are saying that instance, the brawl, set MMA back like 20 years, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I mean, it definitely is. It's not a good look for us as a sport, and as fighters, it's not a good look for us. But at least as far as
it could have been so much worse, though.
Yeah, it could have been so much worse. But I'll say this: it brought a lot of eyeballs to the sport, man. I mean, there's people that I've known for a long time, have never really took an interest in MMA, have zero interest in it, that have been talking about it, that have asked me about it. So the fact that, it's being talked about, what they say, in show business, all publicity is good publicity. So maybe in the end, it brings, maybe for the next card, more people watch for to see something's going to happen. If more people are watching, that's more money in the sport. So I don't know that the UFC really cares that much anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think that if the roles were reversed and say that this were Conor that jumped out there and did something, I don't think that it's any. Yeah. I think that Dana would have put the belt on him and would have let him walk out. Oh, we just got cut off.
Did we get interrupted?
Sorry, man. It just got cut for a second. The video's still rolling. We're still good, though.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. I think had Dana or had McGregor Conor won, yeah, no, I think Dana definitely puts the belt on him in the cage and all that kind of stuff. That's what he wants from him. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think you're definitely right about that. I think it just would have been. It's just been another thing, If Conor would have won, I don't think we'd seen that same reaction. I think there's definitely a double standard there that Conor gets away with. And people keep saying, well, 2 wrongs don't make a right. And that's true. 2 wrongs don't make a right. But so when you're handing out punishment, they've set a precedent for punishing these kinds of incidents, right? Particularly when Conor McGregor is involved. And the punishment is generally lighter, right?
Yep.
Conor, I think, when did Conor jump out of the cage? He jumped out of the cage and got right in Aldo's face.
Aldo's face after the Mendes fight, I believe.
Huh?
I think it was after the Mendes fight.
Yeah, he jumps out of the cage and goes and screams at Aldo. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about Conor jumping in the cage or starting a fight. He gets in a pushing match with somebody out there. I don't think any punches were thrown. So, we have all these incidents where Conor McGregor is involved and does the same kind of thing that aren't really sporting and, aren't great for the sport. And we don't have these same kind of visceral reactions where we're talking about, oh, this is the worst thing ever and blah, 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 man. So if we're not going to do that, if we're not going to be consistent with, how we hand out punishment, then you can't really hand out a punishment. You know what I'm saying? If you're not going to follow the precedent that you've already set, then you just make yourself look bad.
Well, and I know that you're aware of the incident where he hopped the fence as a spectator and then pushed the official.
Yeah, he jumps in the cage. Yeah, exactly.
Zero sanction from any sort of athletic commission. So
exactly right. Yeah.
It's pure hypocrisy.
Incidents, you don't do anything about it. When one goes the other way, when he loses, you can't now try to make it into a thing like that. That's wrong. He's just not right. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. And the only thing that kind of to me just irritates me out of the entirety of the events that played out and unfolded is now Conor's being made out to be the victim and he's getting like the sympathy story, and it's almost like a classic WWE type of storyline of Khabib being the guy turned heel, and somehow Conor being that kind of like heel, just being like propelled into like the good guy light, which just like it's not. Like Conor was the one who provoked all of that to happen that exact way, and Dana is the biggest sucker out of all of it because he whored himself out to Conor and all of his antics, even to the fact that you let him bring up his own whiskey onto the stage, you then sign an endorsement deal along with that, letting him co-sponsor events. and you drank with him on stage on a public press conference. And you allowed him, while drinking on stage, to say that he was going to kill Khabib. So what are you doing, Dana? Are you glorifying alcoholism and homicide and all these sorts of things that he's saying?
Exactly. And now, so you do all that, then the other guy gets pissed and goes off after the fight, and now it's the worst thing ever, and you can't believe any of this happened and all that kind of shit. Like, come on, man. This is literally your fault, Dana. It's literally your fault. You allowed all this to happen. Either you run, a professional, organization, and you expect these guys to act like professionals, or you don't. You know what I'm saying? I think somebody tweeted or posted somewhere that Stone Cold Steve Austin posted that he, after the fight, or a picture of the fight, and he said he loves WWE or something like that, or he loves pro wrestling, something like that. And it's like, you allowed it to become that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, you've been letting things like this build up to this point anyway, but you allowed it. You have one of the biggest events in, UFC history, and you allowed it to become that. And that's where the problem really is, because you never seen Khabib act like that before.
No.
Right? He hadn't done anything like that. He's been fairly mild-mannered as far as I can remember, and maybe somebody listening can point out something that he has done that was like that. I don't know.
I can only think of two instances.
He was in the whole thing with Artem.
I can't remember what. Okay, so Artem might be the third in that, but so one instant, I can't remember who the weigh-in was against, but it was a few fights back, but he had a little push and shove altercation at the weigh-in, and then the only other one that I can think of is the Nate Diaz dust up that they had that time a couple of years ago, and when Nate slapped him, actually Nate hit him with a Stockton slap.
Yeah. But
aside from that, like, you're right. I mean, Khabib is the guy who is like, he is the family man. Like, he talked about how he was he's the world champ and arguably one of the pound for pound baddest dudes on the planet Earth. And he was afraid of going back home to, the smashing that his dad was going to give him. That's it. That's exactly what he said. He said, I know my father's going to smash me when I get home. Like,
exactly, man. So he's provoked. That's not who he is. Yeah, I'll say this about you said pushing, shoving it away, and man, some guys do that. I wouldn't consider that a thing. Something with Nate Diaz, they can kind of drive you to do that. So whatever happened with Nate Diaz, I could see that being another incident where he was pushed to the edge. You know what I'm saying? Or he was pushed to a limit. But yeah, pushing and shoving it way in doesn't really count in my book. As long as it's minor, you're not attacking somebody like Jones and
TTC.
Jones and Cormier, right? That's another incident we had. Jones and Cormier get on stage and do all that kind of stuff, man, and we didn't see the same visceral reaction. Like, it just, I don't know. You can tell
that was in the public plaza of a casino. Like, that was just in the open area. That wasn't even at a fight event, and nothing happened there. But you're gonna talk about Khabib. Basically, you're saying, oh, he might lose his visa and all this and that. Like, come on, man. Yeah. Like, let's be real here. Yeah.
Let's be honest about it. You know what I mean? Let's be honest.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, to me, it's just the double standard has never been more so evident than it is right now after this incident to me.
Yeah.
And that's where, I don't know what your thoughts to it are, but I'm more and more, don't get me wrong. I love and I respect Dana White for what he's done for the sport, but it's almost to the point to where it's grown to a level now to where, one could argue that it's time, you got the horse to water, now it's time to let someone else let it drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have a true, have yourself a true situation as far as a commissioner goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Dana White was great building up the UFC and kind of helping out MMA.
I just got to switch something on the camera. Keep on rolling. I just got to switch this real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, just keep on going. You're good to go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so, Dana White was great building up the UFC and kind of getting it to where it's gotten. As far as a commissioner, though, I don't think he's great as a commissioner, man. he's too much of the common man to be in a position like a commissioner. You know what I mean? Like we want, and Dana wants the UFC to be on a level of like an NFL or NBA, NHL, MLB type thing, right? As the commissioner of the NFL, even when he was taking a ton of criticism, right? A couple years ago with the whole strike thing and the replacement ref, you don't see the kind of responses, direct responses from Roger Goodell that you see from Dana White. You know what I mean? Just remember a couple years ago, and Roger Goodell goes on stage to announce, I think, the draft, and he doesn't even open his mouth, and he gets hit with booze and just all kinds of like craziness. You know what I'm saying? And Dana White gets criticized by one person on Twitter, and he directly responds and calls that person all kinds of, assholes and dumb MFers and all this kind of stuff, right? If you want the UFC to get to the same level as a NFL, as a NBA, the commissioner, the actual face of the league, can't do stuff like that. You just can't, right? Even if it's warranted, sometimes you still can't do stuff like that. Like that, it's not how it works when you're the commissioner, when you're in the position of power, right? NFL's having problems with players holding out. I think like Le'Veon Bell holding out. So even the Steelers organization, they don't go out and insult Le'Veon Bell. Yeah, they want him back. They want him to do differently. They don't go out and insult him. Dana White has Tyron Woodley complaining about certain things or whatever it is, and instead of addressing those complaints like an adult, you know what I mean? You got to have a little tact when you're in that position. He goes out and insults one of his most dominant champions. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe not most dominant, one of his most explosive champions. You can definitely say that. So yeah, Dana's got to the point where like the league and the UFC, because the UFC is essentially just a fighting league. The league, if he wants it to be what he's talked about before, either he's got to change or they've got to make a change. Because like with him at the helm, you cannot do some stuff that he does and the UFC be a full professional league the same way the NFL, MLB, NBA are.
Yep. No, that's
it just can't happen.
that's I think it's spot on, man. That he's still very emotional with how he handles things in general. And I mean, I think that the news announcement today was kind of evidence of that. Like, I think he's kind of red-assed at people's reaction to not liking what the announcement was for UFC 230 at Madison Square Garden. So they were scrambling to try to overcome that bad look for the PR side of things for the Bullet and Eubanks fight, which no disrespect to either one of them, that's just not a main event that that you delivered expectations on, for a pay-per-view card.
No, that would not have been. That would have been a waste of a fight for Valentina. Okay, I mean nothing against Eubanks. I don't know her. She's a professional fighter. She's made it to the UFC, so I'm sure she's a great fighter. I'm sure she's a good person. Like I don't know anything about her. Other than the fact that she's missed weight a few times, and she's, I think, 4-2, right? She's 4-2, and she's missed weight. She has no business fighting somebody with 20-plus fights in a world title fight. She just doesn't. She just doesn't. It would not have been a good fight for her. It would not have been a good fight for Valentina. It just wouldn't. If Valentina wins, she's supposed to have won. It's going to be lackluster. And no one's gonna watch that fight, right? Like no one would buy 230 to see that fight, right? They'd have done like they used to do DJ. They'd have left, right? There was one time DJ headlined the card and they go pan to the crowd and DJ's fight's coming up. I might have been Chris Curiosity or somebody like that. He was going to fight, and you can see people like filing out of the arena, And that's what would have happened if I know a guy that lives in that area. He was saying, you know what, if that fight was on the card, he would go, but he wasn't going to go for that to be the headline of the card. So I'm glad they changed that. Like, it was a bad fight. It just wasn't a good fight for Valentina, and it wasn't a good fight for Jara. I think that's the first name. Right. For Eubanks. So, Yeah, that's exactly it. And they really should have had something else. Somebody else, I think it was Jack Black. He talked about this. They could have been using, the 229 build-up to talk about 230, and they really didn't. Like, they could have been missing it. It could have been at the end or something. It really wasn't. They could have been having that picked out. So I think, going with this Derek Lewis and DC matchup is obviously a much better plan. Trump's not really following the rankings. I mean, if you're going to do a heavyweight title fight and, Stipe's ready, I don't know why he's not getting a rematch. But
that pisses me off, man, so bad.
We take this, it's terrible what they're doing to Stipe, but we take this fight for what it is, entertainment, everybody, Derek's hot right now, coming off that 10 second, that last second knockout. Derek's hot right now. He's a fan favorite. He's not going to, he may recover and get slightly better cardio-wise in 3 weeks, but he's not going to, he's not really going to be a threat to DC, let's be honest. He's just not. He's got the right hand chance, but he likely gets taken down and crucifixed and ground and pounded like, who's that? Whoever DC fought last at 205.
Ozdemir.
So we take that fight as it is. Like I said, the fight on that card is Nate and Dustin, man. I mean, that's the fight. That could have been good enough for a main event. I think.
And the word is Dustin's out.
What did you say?
As of tonight, I saw a report that said Dustin Poirier is out with an undisclosed injury.
Oh, is he? Yeah. Well, then it's good that they still have a main event.
Yeah.
I think Dustin, he's from this area, the Gulf Coast, so hopefully he heals up. But yeah, that'd have been a great fight, man. And I don't know why the UFC is so resistant to a 165-pound division. I mean, you bumped 170 up to 175, and you bring in 165-pounders, and you're fine. There's so much talent at 155 regionally that you could fill a 165-pound division very easily, and you'd have two great divisions at 55, 65.
I have a hypothesis as to why. I have a hypothesis as to why the UFC and Dana are so adamantly against having that division right now. And that, to me, is I think that if it were somebody else making the push for it, anybody other than someone whose last name was Diaz, I think that if it were not one of the Diaz brothers at the forefront of that push, because it's obviously, or it's obvious to me, it's very evident that there is a hard-on against the Diaz brothers that the UFC and Dana has. To me, it's been evident for a long time in that way. Especially, when you're talking about missing marketing opportunities, how do you not have UFC 209 in Stockton with one, if not both of them on the card? That just will,
for sure,
will never make sense to me, But
I agree with that.
if somebody just say, for example, say that, to tie it back with Conor again, if Conor was pushing for 165, they're making 165.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But there's so many guys that could fight 165 and 155. I mean, those two, 155 is already probably the deepest division that they have in the UFC, 55 and maybe 45. I have to really look. But 55 for sure is definitely their deepest division. Regionally, that's where, all the talent is. There's so many guys at 55 that are so good that aren't in the UFC, mainly just because they're full, right? I mean, there's just so many. You can only have so many. You only keep so many guys on the roster. You can only get so many guys fight. You only have so many shows. So if you add a 65-pound division, a lot of these guys that are struggling to make 55 go up to 65, and then a lot of those guys that are small 70s but big 55 can now make this 65, and you've got a fire division. And then you bring in some of this younger talent that's regional, to come fight 55. And then you have less people missing weight because those guys are going to make 60. They can't make 55, but they can make 65. Yep. Or even if they make him 55, like Kevin Lee, who he makes it by the skin of his teeth. You know what I mean? he can make 65, and he's going to perform better at 65. We would get a completely different, a really much more explosive Kevin Lee at 165 than we'll ever get at 155. Because, that extra 10 pounds would do him worlds of good. And he's probably big enough to even fight at, 70 or 75. But it's still like, if he wanted to fight low, because I think he's only about 5'9", 5'10". So if he was to fight it, he didn't want to fight at 70, because some of those 70s can get kind of tall. If he was fighting at 65, he would do great. A guy like Barbosa, another huge 55, man. They would fight so much better at 165. You could bring in so much regional talent and really, build in. You could build in, because some of those guys too, they're getting a little older. You could have some younger guys come up right now with 10-0, 10-1, 10-2, good records at 55 regional. You could have them come in and they could, fight their way into a ranking. That's not a division that I think you would really have to worry about if you were to make. I think you're right. I think, if it wasn't Nate calling for it, I personally wouldn't say Nate's popular off his win over McGregor. Before McGregor, Nate was a pretty, he's super talented, so nobody get mad about that. But he was a pretty middling lightweight, right? He was like, I think 16-11, something like that. He had a bunch of losses before the McGregor fight. He steps in, he takes McGregor's best shots and then beats him, and then he gains just a world, just the entire world as far as followers, right? I don't know if he would still have that kind of pull and draw outside of a fight against McGregor, but either way, you make that fight.
I think they've grown into such culture, cult, icons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Nick was always that dude for forever and ever, and Nate was always for the longest time just kind of, he was respected, but he was also Nick's little brother for the longest bit until the Michael Johnson fight. And then after the Michael Johnson fight, when he got on the mic and, hey, that there's something to be said about the right time and moment to rock the mic. Well, he happened to be on Fox, so yeah, Fox definitely got all that they bargained for there. And then, Joe Rogan was having a hard time just to keep from cracking up. But, when he saying basically, Conor, you're taking everything that I'm working for. And so then, hey, Conor, RDA drops out, 11 days notice. Conor needs an opponent who is someone who is hot right then and there, who they know is going to bang. One way or the other, that's the thing that I always say, regardless of if you like the Diaz brothers or not, which, Grant, I'm a fan, but you know that they're coming to fight.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely coming to fight, and they're going to swing hard, man. They're going to stand there. So, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Nate and Dustin is a great fight. That would be an awesome way to introduce 165. Right, you could let them fight for a title. It would have a little less meaning on it, I think, but that's fine for the first one. You got a champion. You could establish a division. Tough has been struggling lately. I think most people that are fans would get behind a season of Tough with this brand new 165-pound division, man. The guys that would fight at 165 would be so talented, man. They really would. People would watch that. You find some interesting cats and put them on Tough. And that's a whole new season of Tough that I think really helps rebrand and bring Tough back to the forefront. And you could have great division, because you say the guy that comes out winning Tough gets the first title shot. You know what I mean, or the second title shot.
Yep. Yeah. No, I agree.
We're gonna take a few of you guys, right? And the top, I don't know, maybe 3. We'll call it. I don't know. What do they take? Like 20 guys on Tough? They take 20 top 5. How you finish in the Tough tournament. That's where you're going to be ranked when we start this. When we start the actual division. So hold on a second. So when we start the division, so of course, I think it's just a perfect idea. You have a bunch of guys that could fight across multiple divisions and would make great 55 and 65s, right? You could finally have a chance with the whole double champion thing. What's up? Appreciate it. Yeah. Now you have a chance with the double champion thing. A lot of guys could make 55 and 65 and fight back and forth, man. That would in my opinion, it only makes sense. I would do it, and I would do it in an instant. And I mean, you could market the heck out of that. It's just so easy to find guys, men that are fighters, 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", walk around 180, 190 pounds that cut to 165, 155. Man, you throw a stone, you know what I'm saying? You throw a stone in a pool of fighters, man, you're gonna hit a good 55er. You just are. Yep. It's just like the most like the average size of a a male. You know what I mean? So you could easily do that, man.
Oh yeah.
I think it would be great. It would inject a lot of life into the UFC right now, man. We could have tons of discussions about who should be in 65. I mean, like, so you could take a look at the regional list of guys that make 55, and you're gonna see 40 guys with 1 or 2 losses. You know what I'm saying? That have beaten other tough guys. I mean, it would just be too easy. It would create a ton of content for the UFC. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. I don't know what the deal is, but I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, like I said, I don't understand. Like you can't, other than Dana saying directly, that he thinks that it would water it down, but just everything that you said right there combats that notion. So I think that if it were to be different personnel trying to really make the push for this division, other than Nate, I think that it would probably have some more traction, honestly. It's just I don't know. There just seems to be so much of a like I said, there's a hard on that they have for Nate, and I don't know why. That way, I mean, they're not yes men, that's for sure. But
yeah, for sure, man.
How are you going to?
Bigger calling and a bigger need for 165 men than there was for 125 men.
I agree.
165 men right now. Like if you just went out and picked 10 guys right now, 165 men would be a deeper division than 125 women right now.
Absolutely. How many grown men on this earth walk around that can make 125?
Exactly.
Very, very small sample size of people out there, period.
Very few.
And then, now if you want to talk about it, I don't know if you saw the news of Little Pettis, but Little Pettis is moving back up to 35. So, you're outside of DJ and Cejudo, your next best contender in the division is no longer in that division.
Yeah. He could make the weight. He's gonna first just on Little Pettis, Sergio. He's gonna have to build up more muscle mass, man. Got no pop. He can't really hurt you. So he definitely can't do it depleting himself to 25. He might be able. He's gonna gain some pop going back 35, but he just doesn't have it. He just doesn't have it at 35. Just takes too much out of him. He's too small of a guy. He's got to put on more weight. Then like you said, like there's so few grown men that can make 125, right? So if you had 1,000 men in general that could make 125, okay, how many of them are decent enough, are going to be fighters, right? So maybe a tenth of them, so you got 100 now. Here, yep. So you got 100 now that are fighters. Of that 100, 30% are pros, so now you got 30, right? Of those pros, 10% are, good enough and dedicated enough and have enough time to really dedicate to fighting. So you got 10 guys, right? Now, of the guys that are good enough, and of those 10 guys, 3 of them, another 30%, is what you've got that are, good enough athletes to challenge the one guy that's a really good athlete. You know what I mean? So, 25 men. And I'm somebody that enjoys the flyweight, man, because they're, a lot of those guys are really, really skilled guys. They are. They're good. They're great. I love DJ. I think he's the best. I think he's the most skilled fighter in the world, and one of the most entertaining guys. I don't miss a DJ fight. I'm not one of those people. But if we're talking like which division would be better, 25 men would lose to 65 men every time. And people don't like to watch the 25 just because they feel like, they could take these guys, right? I mean, that's part of it. Oh, man, this guy is 5'3" and weighs 125 pounds. I could take that guy. You couldn't, first off, you can't. But nobody's saying that about the 65-pound men. So, I don't know, man. I just think it's a great business move. 25-pound women, too, because that's another division they just added. They had to add the 25-pound women to make a good division for Valentina. But again, you could add 65-pound men, and that's the more exciting division. And that's a deeper division than 25-pound women or men. Like it just only makes sense to bring in those 65 pounds. It's a better division than 45 pounds. It's a better division than 45 pound women too, right? They brought that division in essentially for Cyborg.
Right.
They brought that division in essentially for Cyborg, and now she may or may not even be in the UFC anymore. You know, she may go to Bellator for some other reason. So it really just makes no sense. I can't think of a good reason that not to make 65-pound men. It literally can only help. It's not going to water down 55. It's not going to water down 70. There's a bunch of small 70s that can make 65, and there's a bunch of large 55 that can move to 65. And there's enough regional talent. There's enough regional talent at both 70 and 55 to fill 65.
I agree,
There's
man.
a ton of prospects out here. A ton that you can get.
I think that you know, just like you said, you should make 65, then you should bump 70 to 75, and then I'm a proponent of there being a 95. Just because, you know, I know Anthony Smith, who, you know, shout out to Lionheart, he fights against Volkan Ozdemir coming up here in a couple of weeks. But, you know, it was a very tough cut for Anthony to get down to 85, so now he's fighting at 205, and well, you see what he's done. He's just gone on an absolute tear, but, you know, and granted, that's a different example because he's done so well at 205, but someone who was kind of in that predicament of 185 was just such a tough cut, and that's a 20-pound jump. Anthony's fortunate enough to where he's 6'4", and has the frame to be able to carry that much extra weight, but someone who might be more so in the middle, you know, like almost like a Yoel situation, who it's tough for Yoel to get to 85, but Yoel at 205... You know, he's not very tall, so he would be a smaller 205er. Exactly. But if he had a 95, 95 would be, oh man, 95, seeing Yoel, you might never see that guy lose in the near future.
Yeah, the 195-pound Yoel is a tough fight for anybody, you know what I mean? And you could even make it like 200, I think, and then bump, and I think that we call that cruiserweight, and we bump light heavyweight somewhere up to like 215 to 220-ish, something like that. Because I think Yoel could do okay there. Yeah, at 195, you got guys like Yoel, you got it's like, there's a bunch of 85 right now. It's like that they're just too short to really just too short to be 205. They're just really thick, and they have a hard time making 85. You could add that in, and that's another division. That's another one-punch knockout, one-punch strike division, right? If you can add a one-punch knockout, one-punch strike division, you'd be perfectly fine, right? Like, that division would make it. There's so many guys in that realm, in that 5'10", 5'11", right at 6 foot, but they're too short to fight a guy like a John Jones at 205, but at 195, guys coming down, or guys coming up from 85.
Luke Rockhold.
Do excellent. Yeah, exactly. It's just there's so many guys that could fight in that weight class. That would be great. And again, a one-punch knockout division is gonna be fine. Like you can make an argument about 125 and like I think there's a 115-pound men division out there, but there's definitely not enough guys to fill that at the UFC level. Or you know what I'm saying? And even if there was, not a lot of guys would watch them if they're barely watching 125. Because again, you're not going to see a lot of one-punch knockout. People like one-punch knockout divisions. That's just factual, right?
Yep.
It's 70 degrees outside right now, and people like one-punch knockout, one-punch strike division. So if you add one of those, you're definitely going to be doing fine. People are going to watch that. A cruiserweight, 195, 200. I think it'd be okay at 200. I'll be honest. And then you'd have a ton of guys that could fill that and do great, man. There's so many guys at 85 right now. There's so many prospects that what's his name? Trevin Giles, maybe, I don't know what that guy's name. Giles. He fought in LFA and then he's recently been in. He's been up in the UFC for like 2 years now, and we've only seen him fight like 2 times. I mean, and he's a high level prospect, man. That dude can fight, but he's not getting looks. He's not getting looks. He can flow play just because there's so much depth at 85. It's tough. I think a guy like my buddy Sam Alvey, man. Sam Alvey would make a great 195, right? He's a little smaller than some of the guys that are fighting 205, and he was a little big to make 185, but at 195, right at 200 pounds, man, he would do well. Another guy I train with a lot out in California, Sean Strickland, man. That guy's a huge 70, right? Huge 70, but he's just too thin for 85, man. So like, if there was some of the guys that are fighting 85 were moving up to 195 to 205, that's a guy you would see more and it would do well. I think he would actually probably go up to 85, and then guys that he wouldn't have to fight guys so much bigger than him at 85, because he's only right about 6 feet tall too.
Gotcha.
So he's got to try to get down to 80 to 70, because at 205, he generally fights monsters.
Yeah. I just, like I say, I think that you've hit on some very good points with that. I think it could only help the sport grow by having those more divisions. And then I don't know. I thought that I saw something that Tough might be going away with this ESPN deal. Is that accurate, or have you seen anything to that effect?
I think I saw that too, but I can't confirm that. I did see something about that, but I don't know if that was like.
Or the format is changing, or there's changes coming to it in some effect. I can't remember exactly what it is with the new ESPN Plus deal, but something in that regard. I know that they said that they were trying to place a lot more emphasis on the Contender Series now, but either way,
you could do a whole show you could keep Tough with a 165-pound and like a 195, 200-pound division. Those are 2 seasons of Tough people would get behind. I'm like 100% certain of that. I know for a fact people would get behind a good 165-pound season, because the guys would be so talented. They really would. There's enough interesting cats out there that you could find some and put them on a Tough. Like, you could keep Tough going, and it would be back to being like a moneymaker. Like, they tried it with the women, and the women on Tough, man, they go on there, they put on great shows, but some people, for whatever reason, just don't like watching the girl fight. I personally do, but some people don't. But if you did that, took that same concept they had with the I think it was 115 girls, when they did the new division, and brought that, or even 135 girls, or maybe it was both. I don't remember exactly, but that same concept with a division like 165 men that people really want to see, and the ratings would kill. That'd be something to put on the new ESPN Plus to really drive, subscription, right? Because I think as they have it, ESPN Plus, when it's like first day being offered, got like a 1 million subscribers. When it's like very first day, I don't know what I'm gonna end up getting one. I'm not gonna get it yet, but I'm gonna get one here before it's long. I'm gonna have to watch the 55. So, I mean, Tough, 165, probably the champ. That would be amazing. Tough, 195, 200, probably the champ. Will be amazing, I think. I think it only makes sense. I think you could get 2 more good years out of Tough just by doing that.
I would say so. I think that you're definitely onto something with that. I would get behind it. I mean, but then again, I'm the 15%. You know what I mean? We're the hardcore fans, on that side of things, that we don't make up a very large portion of the market, and unfortunately, that's where we see kind of some of the, I guess, the big drama show stuff that gets built up, because they need to have more things that appeal to the 85+% of the market on the other side of things. They need, unfortunately, or maybe not unfortunately, but in certain ways it is, we need the casual fans. But then that's where, sometimes it's just, I don't know.
You could get those guys.
Yep.
You could get those guys by getting guys that are interesting, right? Some of these people, like, I think the whole, the Conor McGregor way of building fights and building yourself, it's like a fine line, you know what I mean? You want it to be edgy, right? You want it to be just on the edge and not, like, offensive. And that's how you get like dads to bring their sons where it's edgy, but it's not offensive. You know what I'm saying? Like when Conor was really building himself, and he was, just talking about how great he was personally and predicting things and stuff like that. When he was coming up, that's what got people interested. That's what got the eyeballs. But this guy was coming on and he was saying, "I'm gonna do this and I'm this and I'm that and that's why and this time I'm gonna win." Then he was going out and doing it, right? And that was a lot of people loved that. A lot of people hated it, but nobody was like, "Okay, no, that's over the line. That's too far." You know what I mean?
Right.
Nobody was saying that kind of thing. And you could find enough guys that could do that at 65 and grab those kind of people. You could make it interesting enough that way. They could add a couple things. I think they could add like some challenges, like who hits the hardest kind of thing, challenge to like tough. Like they have the thing where the fight meter things. Actually, they have that thing where they measure. I think it's sport science or whatever it's called. But they hit the thing and you see the punching power. Like you could add that kind of stuff to tough and like get casuals to watch that kind of stuff. And that's what other people like. Like they have the countdown shows, right? What do people like? People like the countdown shows because it like lets you see kind of how they train. So if they focus a little, people like that. Like people like fighting and fighters because it's they kind of live vicariously through them, right? So when you get to know these fighters like in the tough house by like watching them train and less focusing on like drama between them and focus more on like the training and then like the fighting and the sparring and stuff like that, people will tune in to watch that. That's what lay people like, right? They like the fighting part of it. A lot of them, some of them like, so you get people like me and you that like all of it, right? We're just interested in all of what we do as far as our hobby and all kinds of stuff like that. And then you get the casuals that are just into the drama part of it. They also get to see like the practice part of it. And then you get the people like milestone people that they kind of like the sport aspect of it. And they really get to see, this is how a fighter prepares for a fight, right? Like you add all that together, that's the kind of stuff we want to see. And that's how you could get more eyeballs on another season of Tough by doing that with a bunch of guys that are now making like people that don't fight, like people I coach with kids, they ask me about my weight cutting. You know what I mean? People that are like kind of interested in this, they see weight cutting and they kind of want to know how it goes. I mean, that could be a whole thing on your series of Tough that you kind of let people inside of a weight cut. You know what I mean? That would be an easy thing to do too. Just add a little extra camera time. I mean. And not only that, people are getting to know these fighters, and now they're going to be invested in them when Tough's over. So now you got people invested in watching these fighters. They got to know a little bit closer over Tough. And when they get to the UFC, so now they're always going to tune in. You know what I mean? A lot of guys, like you can let your personality through as a fighter and not insult others and build yourself up the way that some people have been trying to off the old Conor McGregor model.
Right. No, totally spot on there with it. I think that could you could have a lot to build on content that way. That's something that I think that you could do a lot more with as a whole. Just the little aspects and the nuances of the game as far as fighting goes. Weight cutting to what is just that coach and fighter relationship. I think that you saw a couple of very, very, I guess, as solid examples as you can with the love of a fighter and their coach in that Tony Ferguson and Showtime Pettis fight. With Duke Rufus basically telling him like, "Hey man, if you don't have that hand, I'm not gonna let you go out there. Like I'm not gonna let you go and do this. Like I can't put you through that. I can't willingly know that I'm standing here in your corner while you're in this condition." And then on the flip side, once the announcement was made, seeing just the embrace and the love and the emotion back and forth between Eddie Bravo and El Kukui. That was just that was an incredible display right there. And I don't know how many people and any other people picked up on that, and how many other people really even know who, unless you knew who Eddie Bravo was or unless you knew who Duke Rufus was in those situations. Naturally, like I say, I know just from being close to it on that side, but I thought that was incredible.
Yeah.
I think that's something that you could definitely get some solid content generated for, especially for something like a tough. Just kind of build and show how that relationship means so much to what you do in the cage.
Yeah, man. That would be like they could do a series where they went to some of these gyms. They went to AKA, and they started to for a little bit. They did a day at AKA and a day at, I think, maybe Team Alpha Male. But you could do that. You could go to Bruce's gym and you could really just watch him train, like, his fighters, or maybe his layperson class, right? And just kind of watch how he does that and watch how the fighters interact with those people. Man, people would love that. You know what I mean? People would love that. Okay, well, this is how I do that. This is how I get involved. That would also drive people to go train there. You know what I mean? That'll drive, members of these gyms, and now you're talking about more members. So if you get more, before I started training, I didn't know much about it, man. I didn't watch it, right? I started training, and then I was like, okay, I've got to watch now, right? And then boom, now I'm fighting. Now I feel fairly knowledgeable about MMA and the UFC and stuff like that, right? You get other people training, then you're gonna get more people watching. And then with that, right, with me coming and training, just me coming and training and starting to watch, I've now got an entire family of people. I've got a pretty big family. I got 50, 60 people that now watch fights that before I started doing it would have never watched a fight. Would have never watched a fight. You know what I mean? I mean, my sister, who she couldn't walk and chew bubble gum. I mean, she's not an athlete. She watches fights. You know what I'm saying? And she talks about fighting. And even none of us come on my fights, but she likes to watch the girls fight now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you want to build, like you said, you have so much good content off the training. You could do a thing where you pick some prospects and you could follow them around of their training as they get ready for a regional fight. I mean, it's obviously a good prospect that you definitely know you're going to sign, that you've got real interest in, right? Because you wouldn't waste those kind of resources. But you could put that into a prospect and build a whole series off that. There's so many ways to generate good content, and like you could do like a tough fighter profile, you can put that on YouTube, a 15-20 minute thing where you follow a guy getting ready for a regional fight, and you follow him for a couple days at his gym, 1 or 2 days, because it only takes one guy with a camera to film the shots that you see on film a lot of the promos. They only use one guy with one camera. I know that because I was there when they filmed the stuff for Dan Henderson versus this thing too. So I saw it. So it takes one guy with one camera. He was at practice for 2 hours maybe and got the footage for whatever he used it for the UFC Countdown show. So you could do that. That wouldn't cost you much to fly one guy, course for a couple of days, record the fight, and now you have a whole little series on a guy that is going to make it or not make it, right? Or he's probably going to make it, but you're not going to invest in somebody you don't think is going to make it, but a guy that's going to make it to the UFC. And you've got people that have been following him before he got to the Tough House, before he got to the UFC. People are invested in it. So if you get people invested in the fighter, then you have consistent viewers, right? And not just invested in the drama, right? You can get casuals invested. That's how I'm look at Conor, right? People got so invested in him, right? They don't miss a thing that he does. I mean, this guy was able to convince people that he had a shot against Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match, right? That guy had people so invested in him that they were ready to believe that he could do an entirely different sport and beat the guy, arguably one of the best boxers of all time, arguably. The definite best boxer, of the last 20 years, right? And one of, if not the best defensive boxer ever. He literally was able to convince people that were invested in him to believe that. Imagine just think about the kind of loyalty it took to build that up in people, right? Imagine that working in some other sport. Imagine somebody, LeBron James fan, believing that, because he played football in high school, he could transition to the NFL right now and be just one of the best NFL players ever, and help lead him to he could be one of the best tight ends, or maybe I'm sure he probably played tight end in high school, I think, or wide receiver, whatever he played. Just because he can run and jump, right? He can run fast and he can jump high, right? It's a completely different sport, And the physicality is completely different. The steps are completely different. But Conor was able to convince like half the world that he could do that. So if you can get people invested in the fighter, then you can get them buying and watching all of his fights, and then you're making money.
Yep, absolutely. You know, I think that I think that you're kind of starting to see that a little bit to a certain extent with kind of how the way that the Contender Series and all that has gone, or then like when they had Dana White's Looking for a Fight series, because you had guys like Mickey Gall to your Sage Northcutt's to some of those that started to garner some of that attention on the regional level, and then were able to make that climb and that jump up. I think kind of the same thing with Sugar Sean. Once everybody kind of got to see him on the Contender Series, and then it was Welcome to the Sugar Show from then on out. So, you know, I hope that they only continue to harvest some of these opportunities to showcase that talent at that point. Because just like you said, it's that much easier for people to be invested in the sport as a whole and all these different cards and events when you've seen someone, you know, that's like with anything though. Everybody wants to always be the one to say, you know, oh, I listened to that band before they blew up, or, you know, I saw that kid play ball in, you know, in junior college and now he's in the NFL or now he's in the major leagues or so on and so forth. You know, I saw this band play when they were just an opener and you know, little sweatshop bars, whatever type of thing, and then now they're headlining Red Rocks or something like that. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to have that kind of ground floor attachment to somebody, so I can only see that being something that correlates in this situation.
That's exactly it, right? You get these people in on the ground, especially if like, you know, fighting about matchups. You get a guy matched up with a guy either in a tough fight or in a fight that you know he's going to win, and he shows well in front of these people their first time watching, right? That's why I always say it's not about the fight you have, it's about the next fight. This guy, let's say, you know, prospect A, he's pretty good, he's got a good record, and the UFC does a little special and they're going to bring him in. They show his last regional fight, and he puts on a great show, right? So they do a little special on him. This is, you know, this fighter, we just call him Fighter X. This is Fighter X, and, you know, here's his fight on Island Fight, right? So he fights on Island Fight, puts on a great show. Now, you talk to him, his next fight, going to be on the Contender Series. Catch him on the Contender Series. You promote that, right? And you promote whatever his last performance was, and he looked great. You have people, you know, interested in this guy. And that doesn't cost you a bunch of resources. Like I said, it's one guy, to make those specials, it's one guy with one camera for an hour and a half, right? So you do that. He goes to the Contender Series, right? You let him talk a little bit more. He gets a little bit more, you know, publicity. You know what I'm saying? And then he goes to the Contender Series, and he wins another fight. Oh, now you've got a guy that people have been watching since his last fight in the Contender Series, now going to the UFC, right? His family and friends are definitely going to be watching. They're going to tell their family and friends to watch. Like, you literally generate. You start it, and then you let the content and the followers and the fans generate themselves. It's like almost too easy. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely, man, definitely. You know, it's a teed up opportunity in my eyes, but what do I know? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just a poor cop, man.
Exactly. You know, as we sit here, you know, talking about this, you know. I don't know, man. I think it would be a good opportunity overall, though. But, you know, Mike, we've been kind of running along for about an hour and a half now, roughly around in that time. Is there anything that we haven't covered at this point that you want to get out there to your fans, you know, to anybody out there that's listening, or any message that you want to get out?
Oh man, we got the holidays coming up. Everybody enjoy your holidays. Be safe. All the hurricanes coming up. Hurricane Michael is coming up to go. So, you know, everybody on the Gulf Coast, be careful. Just be on the lookout for this fight news, man. Like I said, I may have a fight in December. If I can take it, if my son's going to be born healthy and safe, and I can get that in, I definitely will. It's going to be a good opportunity, so I'll be excited to share that with anybody following me. Man, like I said, man, I would love to get some feedback on my idea about taking the point away from guys that miss weight by a pound or two or whatever. If that would be awesome to see if that would that would take hold in the industry, man. I think that would help everybody, honestly. Because the guys that are too big, we're gonna have to move up, and guys that are making the weight are gonna be doing better. So I'd be interested to see that. But yeah, man, that's about it. Just be on the lookout for my next fight, guys. Anybody listening wants to check out my last fight, Island Fights Facebook page. An hour and 53 minutes in, you fly the thing ahead. Watch our fight, okay?
Mike, why don't you hit us with your social media handles and everything with that real quick on the way out here?
Oh yeah. Once again, my social media: Facebook, Iron Mike Barnett, and on Instagram at Mikey Fights. Yeah, follow me, guys. I post a lot of funny stuff. I engage with anybody. People send me messages all the time, asking me questions about fighting or training or cutting weight in general. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions for anybody has, or just about me in general.
Thank you very much, Mike, for taking the time to come on the show. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate all the support and all the all the feedback and everything that you engage with on the page too as well. I think I'm actually going to pose that question as one of the little answers or poll kind of situations on Instagram, see what kind of feedback we get from there too. But I'll definitely be circulating that question at the gym next time I get there and just kind of start talking to guys. I think that's a killer idea, man. I really do.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I've been looking forward to seeing what the results on that are.
Yep, definitely, man. And I want to say congratulations. I wish you nothing but the best of luck with Iron Mike Jr. Right, coming.
Yeah, definitely. Little man on his way.
I wasn't sure if you guys had picked out a name or anything like that, but that's what Justin always says is Iron Mike Jr.'s coming.
My wife was trying to argue, and I was like, nah, not a hamster. First one's going to be named after me.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck as you add an addition to the family. So, hopefully everything is on the up and on the healthy side for you, man. I really, really hope that for you. And then I can't hope to hear what this fight news is. All things considered in that respect. So, Mike, like I say, want to thank you there. I want to throw a quick couple of shout outs on my end from the show here. So first and foremost, want to throw a shout out to the entire team, the Comments from the Peanut Gallery sponsored athlete crew. Want to throw a big shout out to Selena Rowland for cleaning up and having the big win this last weekend at the Renegade Fight Night Series. Won by Americana in the first round, but came out explosive. Came out with the strikes, just banging, got her down to the ground and pounded for a minute. She got the arm and then just took advantage of that. So, Selena, thank you very much for representing the brand very well and for all the hard work that you've put in. I also want to throw a shout out to the Terp House. Terp House versus everybody. For the best in the CBD industry out there, make sure that you check out theterphouse.com. See how they can bring some value and some impact into your life. And I also want to throw a shout out to Beyond Bridges Music as well as Lion League Music for everything that you've done in support for the show and helping us with some material on that side of things. So thank you guys all out there very much. Make sure that you guys pop by the website www.cftpg.com. Right now we've got our fall-winter collection as well as we still have all the material from the summer. But the big focus right now, with it being the change of the weather, we've got our beanies, coffee mugs, hoodies, everything along those lines. So everything that you guys purchase out there goes into the direct benefit and the sponsorship efforts for our athletes. So if you would do us the favor of support, that would be greatly appreciated too as well. Mike, once again, thank you very much, man. Anything else you want to throw on the shout out?
Not really, man. Yeah, if you guys are interested, like I said, follow my Insta. I've got some gear on sale, t-shirts, Iron Mike t-shirts, some in gray and in black. If you're interested in one, send me a message. I'm going to take Cash App and all that kind of stuff. So I'll send it to you. You won't, I'll pay the shipping, and I'll get it right out to you, okay?
Yeah, make sure you hit up Mike for those fight shirts, everybody out there. So, everybody out here is just trying to help build each other up. Let's support the dream of everybody that's out there. The MMA world is still very much growing. There's not a lot of large business funding that goes into what a lot of these guys do. So we're just trying to all figure out the best ways to help support the dream. So anything that you can do to help support these athletes, please do. Please do. So with that being said, I want to throw this on the end. Thank you very much for listening to the Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz. Thank you very much to our guest, Iron Mike Barnett. Thank you very much. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
Jordan.